If you do have a C-class asset, having Section 8 at this point in time is probably not a bad thing, right? Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, as always, we got Matt Jones. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing, Todd?
I'm doing fantastic. Still stuck in Florida. It's a bummer, man. It's just too bad. It's sunny. It's warm. It's just too bad. Yeah, you feel bad for me, don't you?
Absolutely. I really feel sorry for you.
We're only going to be down south for another week and a half, 2 weeks. So time it'll end soon.
No, maybe we'll have some snow in Minnesota waiting for you.
We'll see. The kids want it. I wouldn't mind it either. Coming back, have a little snow for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
That's always good. They're laughing because we'll drive by and there's a palm tree lit up, and like we went to a Christmas parade yesterday, and they're just laughing because everybody's in shorts and a t-shirt, and it's like there's no snow. They're like, oh, there's a snowflake. It's it's lit up. Like, oh, there's a snowflake out. That's funny. So a little different down here, but people down here, it's like it's normal. Like, what's wrong?
Yeah, if it did snow down there, they wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, no, it doesn't snow down here. I mean, they'll get a flake, it'll get a little bit, but it's not Minnesota snow.
Mm-hmm.
So cool, man. What are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about vacancies.
Yeah, vacancies. Well, here's the deal. We started out this pandemic, and I think everybody was freaked out that we were going to have tons of vacancies. We're going to have all this economic loss. Things were going to be really bad. And that just didn't happen, quite frankly. It was actually really the opposite. My properties, anything that was vacant got leased out. We took two complexes of ours from roughly 75% occupancy to 95% occupancy within a few months. We were getting high demand on renovated units. Things were just like, wow, this is amazing. It did the exact opposite of what a lot of experts and just what a lot of people were expecting, myself included, quite frankly. I was expecting some hardship to happen, and it just didn't. Fast forward, that was March, that was April, that was May, June. Fast forward, now we're in December, and I am seeing pain points now in the market, and I'm hearing it from other people as well. I just spoke with a gentleman the other day, and we were talking about they were having issues with vacancies. I'm down here in Florida. I was talking with a broker, the very same thing. So we're seeing it in various markets, and every market's a little bit different. But we're seeing where we're now getting higher vacancies, and the units that become vacant sit for a long time compared to, before, like if your unit sat for more than a week, something was wrong, right? It was in bad condition, or you're way overpricing it, whatever it was, but there was something wrong. Now, in well-located areas, even, we're seeing apartments that'll sit, and they'll sit for quite some time, like a month, we're talking. And prices I've seen go down, not drastically, and it depends on the market. Like we've got property in Minneapolis, in a good part of Minneapolis, and that the prices have gone down $200 per month. So that, equates to like 15%-ish on the rent. We've got other places, though, where prices haven't gone down. We're just not seeing as much activity per se. Our occupancy went in one of our buildings from about 96% down to about 93%, which isn't horrible, but we're not seeing a leasing velocity that we used to. Still getting good rents. So it kind of depends on the market, but we're definitely seeing vacancies. We're definitely seeing issues. I think one of my property managers was talking about it. And, we've had this kind of economic vacancy, but not physical vacancy. And what we're seeing now is the physical vacancy is starting to catch up with the economic vacancy. So economic vacancy, for those of you who don't know, is, we might be 95% physically occupied, right? But maybe only 90% of our rent is actually coming in. So we've got an economic vacancy there, right? And so now what we're seeing is those two are catching up. So we're seeing a physical vacancy closer to 90%. So yeah, it's a little different right now. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm starting to see a lot more concessions as well, like free month of rent.
Yeah. Matt, I was talking with a leasing agent of mine, and they were talking about the concessions in the market, and they had a showing the other day where a person came in and asked if we're giving any concessions, and they said, well, no, we're not. Our rent is really competitive with the market, and we don't have a need for concessions at this time. And she said, well, places around you are giving up to 3 months worth of concessions.
Wow.
So there's some places, and these are new construction. Our property is not new construction, but there's some places that are newer construction that are giving, and this is in the Twin Cities, up to 3 months worth of concessions. Now, most of them are giving 1 or 2 months that are newish construction, and even some of the older construction, B class, C class, they're giving a month worth of concessions right now, where that just wasn't happening in the Twin Cities. You wouldn't see a concession period. We were doing lease up at our Lexington properties, and there we were giving some concessions. A half a month, I think, was the last concessions we were giving, but that's when we were doing high volume lease up.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes and what happens. We've got obviously stimulus talks, but we've had stimulus talks now for how many months? I mean, they'll say, oh, it looks like it's getting close, and then just like nothing happens, right? There's no need for it to happen. And quite frankly, I don't see, even though the news is saying that they're getting close on stimulus and it sounds like something's going to happen, I don't know. I don't see that really happening until the Georgia election, Senate election results really come through, because look at the Democrats win that Georgia runoff. They're in the best position they've ever, or not ever, but I mean, they're in a great position, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can kind of do what they want to do. And so if they have their wish list, they can just check it right off. So why would they wait? At the same time, they might go, well, now's a good time, because if we don't win, now we're in a lot weaker position.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, and it's kind of a toss up in Georgia right now. I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, and I quite frankly have no clue. I haven't paid any attention to it. I just know that it's there and happening.
Yeah, and the stimulus money seems like it's helped to reduce economic vacancies to a point, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. I don't have like a statistic out there. I just go by my properties and what we've seen. And we've kind of seen similar economic vacancy. Like for us, the biggest difference is we couldn't get rid of any of the tenants, right? So what we would have is, normally we would have, let's call it 10 tenants that didn't pay rent, but typically we could get them out very quickly. Well, now we just have to let them sit in the property.
Yeah.
And so now instead of we still have 10 tenants that haven't paid rent, but those are the same tenants every single month. And so they've been living in our property since March, rent free. I mean, so I've got tenants that owe me $15,000 at this point in time. They haven't paid a dollar since this eviction moratorium happened, and they're not going to. And quite frankly, when it comes off, my guess is they're just going to leave and just say, "Hey, we can't pay the rent. We're going to leave now." So whatever that is, I mean, knowing kind of what's going on in Minnesota, that's going to be, quite a while before that comes off. So I haven't seen, I don't know. I guess I don't know the statistic out there. I feel like the tenants who always pay are going to pay. Now, we have gotten a few emails here and there, and this is where the vacancy issue has came up in the Twin Cities in particular. This is happening. It's interesting that it's happening more in the Twin Cities than it is in any other state. That's interesting to me. We've had several tenants that have now non-renewed their lease because of financial hardships and because they don't have their job. They worked in the service industry, and so now they're non-renewing their lease. We've had more of that over the last 3 months than I think we've ever had. So in the Twin Cities, we're seeing probably the worst results out of all our rentals. And those are really been hard to fill too, which is really interesting. So we're having a tough time filling units, and we're having a lot of people that have decided to move because they can't afford it anymore. Now they've been responsible, right? They've paid up to the day they've moved. The ones that aren't moving, they're just living there for free, and I can't do anything about them. So it's interesting, and it's interesting that it's mostly a Twin Cities problem when I look at our other properties. So obviously I have properties in Ohio, in Kentucky, and in Tennessee, and in Wisconsin, and I'm not seeing those same issues in those other states.
And how have you and your property managers been advertising vacancies?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a ton hasn't changed because we're pretty aggressive before, quite frankly. I mean, we were getting into any source we could. Internet is, obviously the king of the advertising. So we're in apartments.com, we're on Craigslist, we're on Facebook Marketplace, we're on all the other apartment sites, all the Zillow, the Trulia, all that kind of stuff. So we're all over the internet, Rent Cafe, all of that. We haven't done this lately because we haven't had the need, but at the start of the pandemic, when our Lexington properties were pretty vacant, when we had 25% vacancy, what we did is there's a Hispanic kind of newspaper, and this is in a Hispanic area, and we advertised through the Hispanic newspaper. That brought in people. We on one of my properties in Cincinnati, it's in a kind of heavily saturated Section 8 area, so we're reaching out to the Section 8 and other government assistance type programs to try to get more of that guaranteed rent, which is good at this point in time. If you do have a C-class asset, having Section 8 at this point in time is probably not a bad thing, right? Because that's your guaranteed rent. And if the economy goes down south, which it could, and tenants can't pay, well, if you've got Section 8, they're paying. So, we don't have a lot of C-class, but the few that we do, we are either actively engaged with Section 8 or we're looking at actively getting engaged with Section 8.
One good thing from this pandemic for filling vacancies is that I've started doing virtual tours for
Yeah.
applicants, and so I make everyone watch the virtual tour before I even schedule an in-person tour with them if they want. And so it's weeded out a lot of those people who are just kind of looking around and not really serious about renting your place.
Yeah, that's a great point. We've been much more proactive on our pictures, making sure we've got really good images, and then same thing, virtual tours. That's really valuable, especially I feel especially on that A and B class product. We're getting really good results with our virtual tours. On our C class product, which again we don't have a lot of, but the stuff that we do have, we get a lot less people looking at those videos and reach out to us right away wanting that tour. So where, especially in our A class, it seems like we always get the people have already said, hey, we've watched that video. We really like the place, that type of thing. So, but yeah, the videos are huge. The pictures, just really making sure your attention to detail is good. Obviously, offering concessions if you're at the point of needing them, right? You want to make sure you get people in the door. And so if you need the concession, offering a half a month or a full month, or shoot, maybe even you got to offer 2 months, whatever you got to do to get people in the door, that might be necessary.
Yeah.
Offering a free TV, offering paint choices. Like there's a lot of ways to get creative without, just a simple like offering free paint choices, where people can pick their own colors, type of thing. A TV, an iPad, stuff like that. People honestly, if you give a free iPad, even though it only costs you, I don't even know what an iPad costs right now, $400, $300, whatever it is. That seems like a big deal to them. It's a great gift, right? And it attracts people. So
very cool.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, look, it's still strong out there, right? Leasing has slowed down. We are in December. It's going to slow down. We're in holiday season. It's not time to panic yet, but it is time to be aware that it's definitely not 2018, 2019 out there. It's a different leasing time. You probably want to be more diligent in who you're leasing to. Make sure that they've got the income, right, that they say they do. Make sure they actually still have their job that they say they do, and really pay attention to, have they been actually paying their rent. I think that's interesting because what we're seeing, I think a lot of what we're seeing, Matt, is you just don't have as much turnover because people don't want to move right now.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to move. So unless they have to move, they're not moving. And so a lot of what we're seeing as far as people applying for our places are non-qualified people. They got kicked out. They moved because they couldn't afford their last place because they don't have a job. And so that's a lot of what we're seeing right now as far as our potential tenants, which is of course never a good thing. So I think that's the biggest challenge is we're just, when you have a vacancy, it's challenging to fill it. So instead of getting vacancies, try to figure out ways to keep occupancy, right? I think that's going to be more valuable. How do we keep tenants in there? How do we keep them paying? Like, tenant emails you and says, hey, we're having trouble with rent. Say, here are resources. Quite frankly, before they even say that, just send proactive emails to your tenants of, here are any resources. If you ever have any financial difficulty, we understand the pandemic has been, going on for a long period of time, and some of you might have some financial stress in your life. And if that's the case, we really want to make sure we are helping you in any way possible. And here are the resources for you to go to. Like, just be proactive, because that makes them feel appreciated, makes them want to stay. And, there is resources out there. And it's hard to find new tenants. I had 2 tenants that moved out in Minneapolis that I think if we would have been more proactive, we probably would have kept them as our residents.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, that it shows that you care, and you're sort of showing them that you've got their back, and by sharing those resources with them, and then they're going to be more committed. The rent is, for most tenants, it's their biggest bill. And if they start to fall behind on that, it gets harder and harder to catch up.
Yeah, man. You look, when I was self-managing 100% and like talking with tenants all the time, and anytime they got a month plus behind, if they got into that second month where now they owe 2 months, rarely ever could they catch up. It just doesn't happen. Every once in a while you can get somebody to catch up, but very rarely. So yeah, be proactive.
All right. Well, that's all I got then.
Cool, man. Well, that's it for me. Keep your tenants. That's the biggest thing. Keep them, and don't be stingy. Be willing to offer them incentives. Be willing to give 3 months rent if you have vacancy. Just be willing to be flexible and be creative, because you need those tenants. They're important, right, to your bottom line, and they're important to make sure these are people's lives that you're dealing with too. So we got to be good to everybody. That's it for me as well. You have a fantastic rest of the day, Matt, and make every day a Saturday.
Thanks, you too.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience, and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.